pipeline, building models, deploying stuff, and maintenance from start to finish. So I just want to talk a little bit about what are the things that actually drive the business, right? What are the key characteristics of the AI products that actually drive business? So it's not going to be any fancy technical stuff. If you have any questions regarding that, please don't ask me as well, because I have no idea about that. So I think everyone's seen this before, right? You know, you have the directors from business come at you and trying to like push you to do a lot of AI stuff. You know, can you build this product for me? Can you build this product for me using AI? Should be pretty easy, right? So how do you communicate with them? I think this is one thing you want to talk as well, right? Everyone thinks it's relatively simple, but as you can see, you know, on the tips of the iceberg, people can just use like, can you just use a GPT API? Can you just use AI to write codes? But the things underneath, there's a lot of stuff that actually matters. So according to the research by MIT Lab, 95% of AI pilots projects fail to actually creating measurable impacts. Because, you know, underneath the tips of the iceberg, you have like hallucination problem that you have to deal with. You have the data and context management. This might be something underrated that people don't really care about. And for measuring impact, you need maybe something like A/B testing or human in the loop. So this is the reality, right? You have end-to-end. You start from the products. You're looking at the data. You prioritize what projects to focus first. You build, you validate, and then you measure the impacts. And the reason why 95% of the project fails to deliver good impact is that you're just building AI for AI's sake. I think nowadays AI is everywhere. You can see a lot of people using, you know, fancy stuff, using white coding to build many things, and that's happened at a really fast pace. So people start to think that they can pretty much do anything with AI. But we actually, when we build products, we have to be really specific about what we want to build, that kind of stuff. Another thing is data feasibility and data quality. I think this is the same since machine learning era. No matter how good your model is, if you have garbage data, garbage in, garbage out, that's it. So it's also really important to look at feasibility of the data as well. Another thing that tends to be a little crazy is over-engineering. There's people trying to use a lot of fancy stuff where you can just use a simple API call to do a lot of things, or you can build simple instead of using really complex stuff. Another thing is no clear success metrics. If you want to actually build something that drives impact, you need to know what is the key driver, right? And it's not just the key driver, but also what is the guardrail metrics that you have to be careful about. Because some products definitely drive something, but it decreases in some other aspect, you know, it might not work. And I think another thing that's really important is prototype is not equal production. Right now it's really fast to do POC, really fast to build demos, using your local machines and using something like that. When we actually build products on the scale of production, there are much more things to consider, and this is one thing that we want to break down as well in today's session. Lastly is no human oversight. You know, a lot of people nowadays, once they start to be able to use AI for coding, they're trying to increase the velocities of delivering products really fast, and some of the products get no human check. So hallucination problems and this thing like this get, you know, go unchecked, and it becomes something that cannot drive the actual impacts. So I want to break down into 3 phases here. So before you build stuff, this is the pre-building phase, and this is where I want you guys to spend, considerable amount of time before proceeding, right? So in Agoda, we really focus on prioritization. So basically, every start of the sprint, we have communication with business or with product team on what projects we need to prioritize. And we do it also every quarter as well, at the start of the quarter. So basically what they do is we have a meeting with business team, and we have business prioritize, okay, which one are high impact, which one are low impact, and we communicate with them on how to actually build the products, how many dev days do we need, how many days do we need to pretty much build this from end to end, right? So we wanted to separate into 4 categories. So the thing that you want to do first is the thing that has high impact and takes low effort. I think one thing that is definitely relatively easy to build, for example, if sales team need a deck to pitch some sort of products, You can also build some sort of automation system that build the deck for them automatically, use AI to summarize. And this is relatively straightforward. And you can use, and this is something that like salespeople are gonna appreciate a lot because they don't have to spend a lot of time building their decks whenever they have to pitch the products, right? If you have some sort of a button or a click or a prompt that can create a deck for them, this is something that can be easily done, creating a lot of impact. And this is something that we want to prioritize first. And then the things that has high impact require high efforts. This is something that we have to plan ahead. And things that definitely need to be avoided is definitely something like low impact with high efforts. So this is something that, you know, we have to do communication with business clearly. Also, another thing that we have to check is that a lot of AI products leverage data. So do we have enough data to be able to pull this off? Is it able to, you know, context, make the right context for data? Is it possible to basically doing a basic data check to be able to see whether or not this is feasible or not. So you want to do this before you actually build the product. However, sometimes as a dev or as a product, you don't want to spend too much time talking to business, right? For us, I understand that sometimes we have to talk with business, but we don't want to spend too much time with them because we want to focus more on building stuff. So how much communication is too much? So before you build anything, I think this is like a basic checklist that we want to be able to answer. So once you be able to answer all of this, for example, what does success metrics look like? What is the input? What is the output? You know, what are the 8 cases that matters? And then you build a little POC for business and check on this. Once you have all of this, I think it's just plenty enough that you don't need to spend much more time talking to business. But I think the key is that you have to be really clear with business because the business team knows a lot about how to drive impact, right? And for us, we need to be clear on like, okay, if we do it with this requirement, it's clear, then I think it's good to go. But if it's not clear, then you're going to spend a lot of time going back and forth with business. So the key important thing is that you have the clear alignment at the beginning. And this is why even with like all the AI assisted code, all the fancy stuff, we can't just deliver all our project at much faster pace because you have to spend, you know, the time to design and align with business first so that we know on the same view. Once you have the proper, clear structure, it's much easier to build stuff because you can just focus on building and not just like having to go back and forth between business. So I think this is like a clear checklist that we usually do before we build any product, and it's been really useful for us. And for step 2 is building phase. So I think the key takeaway for building phase is actually simple beats complex every time, at least in my opinion. So the key concept is you want to start with something simple. I know there's a lot of cases nowadays, a lot of new knowledge, agentic AI, MCP, a lot of fancy wordings that we want to try out. But in the actual things, there are many benefits of doing something simple. If you think about something on production scale, you want to be able to maintain it. You want to be able to track it. You want to be able to validate it. And if the system is too complex, it will be really hard to check on these, right? Because if you have complex system, it's really, like when you trace what's going wrong, you know, it's going to be a lot of stuff to trace. There's going to be a lot of stuff to maintain. If it's simple, I think one of the speakers mentioned that one of the most important things is to build trust, right? You want users to trust in the products. If you can explain this product to business with ease, they tend to trust the product because they understand what's going on, not just AI splitting random answers. And if you do something that's simple, you know, it tends to, you have more control over stuff like hallucination because you know what's going on. Another thing is, people tend to do a lot of, I think now it's an more open sources model, a lot of people do fine tuning and stuff. I think one really good case is that you want to try it out before going to fine tuning is trying to build the context on the data, trying to do prompt engineering first, because those are relatively basic fix that doesn't cost you a lot of money. Because fine tuning is going to be expensive. And especially if you want to fine tune anything, please make sure that you have the requirement on the pre-building stage really clear before you fine tune, or else the finance team is going to come knock on your door, you know. And another thing is guardrail matters as well. We want to plan for edge cases. We want to plan for hallucination. And this is something that I think matters, but again, at the same time, you don't need to overplan stuff because we can never really account for all the cases. So what we usually do is we try with simple design, and then we roll out with groups of users. So in Agoda, we have a group of PDs that testing out AI, we call it AI Terminator teams. And basically, this is where we receive a lot of user feedback, and then we can, develop the system to be more complex later on. But if you start from complex system right away, and then you roll out for a user to test, and you get feedback, and now you might have to dissect a lot of those complex systems to fix. If you start from something simple, it's just much easier to maintain and adjust based on feedback. So I think this is something that I really want to stress, especially nowadays. We have many fancy tools, many fancy wordings, many fancy technology to use. Another thing that I want to talk about is I think right now the trend with white coding is become more and more, and even me myself, I white code a lot. But the thing is that coding faster doesn't mean delivering faster. This is something that at Agoda we want to communicate with